So, in response to my Jon Stewart video, I guess the same group of trolls who freaked the fuck out when I proved that there was in fact a LGBTQ sex education author who wrote an article specifically calling for the normalization of sex between adults and children. They got a hold of my Jon Stewart video and they decided to show up in my Discord and try to ambush me. A lot of this is edited because just for the sake of brevity, but I think you guys will enjoy it, so I stayed up pretty late making it for you. So, have fun. Now, quick note, he initially did all of this in text on Discord, so that's kind of what we're talking about. It's just it was an enormous wall of text, so I didn't want to try to go for it. I just, point for point. So what I said was, let's just do this in voice. All right, go ahead.
Well, I don't know what parts you read, or what do you mean?
Okay, so I guess we can start with you suggesting that it's bizarre to suggest that laugh tracks could be used to be manipulative.
Yeah, I think it is incredibly bizarre given how often they're used in, I want to say, in everything. Not necessarily everything, but in a ton of
Other
stuff,
people
right?
in the chat here and during the show understood my point. He was applying laugh tracks to a conversation with a congressman to make it sound like the things the congressman was saying were ridiculous, even if they weren't. That's my point. Other people agreed with me. If you don't, that's fine. I certainly don't think it's bizarre.
Yeah, I think it's bizarre to imply that they're manipulative, like I just said. So,
okay,
if you hold on, so if you,
I don't care if that's the
so
opinion you have.
did you read the examples that I gave you?
Yes.
Because if you just stopped at the first sentence, yeah, I would agree. My argument's not gonna make sense, right?
I read the whole thing, and I still don't agree.
So hold on. So do you think that you could watch a comedian that's not funny, listen to the audience laughing, or there could be a laugh track placed on top of them, and you would suddenly find that funny?
He wasn't in a comedian situation. He was literally interviewing a state officer.
Yeah. So again, but can you find a comedian that you don't find funny if you hear a laugh track on them? Because if the answer is no,
there is a psychological effect involved with it, and that's the reason why some people say you need a studio audience. This is not a point that I'm really interested in discussing with you very much. If your opinion is that it's bizarre, I honestly, the people whose opinions I actually value don't agree.
No, because I'm questioning if you're understanding the argument that I'm making, right? So the analogy I'm trying to draw here is if you're listening to a comedian that you don't find funny, and if someone plays a laugh track on them, you can't turn something that you don't find funny on some level into something that's funny, right? Into something that is ridiculous. That doesn't follow.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I understand what you believe you're saying. I just don't agree. Move on. So, just a quick note, in this article on the Association for Psychological Science, the science of humor is no laughing matter. They get into the effect that I was referring to. So, further down in the article, studies have shown that people are more likely to laugh in response to a video clip with canned laughter than to one without a laugh track, and that people are 30 times more likely to laugh in the presence of others than alone. So yeah, it's not bizarre, dipshit.
Okay. Well, then what other points?
Emotionally attached to that point because you sound pretty angry.
No, because I don't understand what you're not following with that example. You're just insisting that it's wrong, but you're not really telling me why it's wrong.
Okay. Well, I told you that I believe that he added laugh tracks in that situation to make it look like what the person was saying was more ridiculous than it actually was, or that it was ridiculous at all. It's the same effect that people use when they use the laugh react on Facebook when they're in debates, even if it's not appropriate. So that's my view on it. If you don't agree, I understand, but it's not something that I'm really interested in going on for an hour about. I don't agree with you on this point.
Fine. So again, so is there any other section that you went through?
You don't understand what woke means?
I don't understand what you mean by it when you say it. Because every time I've heard, this is why I brought up the example of socialism. Every single time that I hear someone mention the word, there are 50 plus different definitions of the word, as I don't really actually know what people mean when they say it. There were people who were calling Joe Biden socialist in the last election. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? So when you say that Jon Stewart's gone woke, without a clarification, I don't know what that means.
Um, well, it's in fairly common parlance. I'm sure you could have looked it up online. I actually answered this one in the chat, but it just comes down to subscribing to what the social justice movement believes would be the proper method of, not only just perceiving interactions between humans, but how they would like to go about, at least in their view, changing the world and how people interact. And unfortunately, I feel it's misguided. But in general, what it comes down to, like wokeness includes, the current branch of extreme racial, gender, sexual identity, sexual orientation activism.
So him being like pro like trans people in sports makes him woke. But that's your can I
That's
like, roughly say that's
definitely that is definitely a woke position. Yes.
okay? Yeah, I mean he's definitely pro trans people in sports.
Yes, he also did
Sure.
some, white people are the problem stuff not that long ago. That's a woke position.
Yeah, I saw that. I would say that's probably not like as well. He didn't deliver that point as well as he could have. But I understood the point he was making.
Right. Okay. Well,
But
those are
I'm not
all
gonna.
woke positions. I guess.
I, I mean,
Is there
the
anything
position's not
else?
the position's not necessarily woke, but sure.
No, it's definitely woke. And the people who I said that to understood what I meant.
Yeah. So I like you were just saying. I'm not interested in if that's your definition of woke. I can work with that. That's fine.
Okay.
That wasn't my relevant critique, anyways.
So, what was your critique there? Because you're suggesting you want me to define wokeness as if it doesn't mean anything or it's gibberish or something.
Um, I was just saying that, like I said, it's a word that I have like 50 different definitions of. It's not necessarily a critique per se, other than you should probably clarify what you mean by it when you say it, because it's a word that doesn't mean a whole lot on its own.
Okay, so this is going to be another one of those situations where, like, that's your opinion, and I don't ever run into people
Sure.
who don't understand what I mean when I say that. So you'd be the first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have a dedicated audience, I'm sure your dedicated audience is aware of what it means. But if your intention is to grow, I don't think anyone like outside your dedicated audience is going to necessarily know what you mean by what you mean by it.
Well, again, I've literally never at any point ever had any problem with people understanding what I meant by that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people don't spend the level of time and effort I spent dissecting your video, though. So, and then giving you feedback.
Okay. So what is this? Given the rest of your commentary in this video is an interesting choice of words to say. So are you just implying
Sure.
I'm lying?
Um, no, but you do emphasize that you don't like facts being misrepresented, which
Right.
I can get into that, but that's much uh, down the line. Actually, no, it's not actually much down the line. I can back that up by immediately the next point, with the implication that there's the reason why like transforming care is built the way it is because of the money that it's to be had in it. That's what
That's
you're implying. I suppose
actually
you could try and
that's
claim that there was like a different
one
point.
element to it. I wouldn't say it's all of it necessarily. However, the endocrinologist implied that it's not a significant source of money, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
obviously not true to anybody who's studied it.
It is okay. So the argument or the I guess the evidence that you gave does not demonstrate that point.
So the clip of the woman explaining in detail that this
Mm-hmm.
whole process makes a lot of money for hospitals does not prove
Mm-hmm.
that.
No, it doesn't. I can explain
Okay,
why.
I don't agree with you at all. I don't understand how that could in any way be rational.
Yeah. So again, I can explain it to you. So, but this would depend on like how much you actually read. So, I mean, if you want, you can also just like read everything I wrote, and then I can get back to you. If you want like a I don't know, like a 10-minute break or something.
Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'd like to take this one thing at a time. So exactly. So what are you suggesting? What is that? It's charitable or something? It doesn't make money because it clearly does. That's actually one of the things that led to
So
them talking
no,
about it the
that's
way
not
they
what I'm
have in
saying. Nope,
Sweden.
not what I'm saying. Not what
Okay,
I'm
so then
saying.
what are you saying?
Um, you're implying that because there's lots of money to be had in it, that like that's why they're offering the care. That there's an implication there that
No,
there's
that's
no
not actually what
there's
I said. I said that
hold on.
that's part of it.
That is what Jon Stewart is talking about in the clip that you showed, and you didn't say like yeah I like agree with that. Instead, you said well no, there actually is a lot of money to be had in this sector,
Because there
right?
is.
Okay, so what is the yeah? But he's saying that specifically say that there is not a conspiracy around the fact that like there's a lot of money to be had here. That's why they're recommending this care. But that's not what you refute. Instead, you like hyperfixate on the idea that there's a lot of money to be had there, which is not a
Right,
point I think
because
that's like
the
particularly well
suggestion that was
substantiated.
made by the endocrinologist that there's not significant money being made is obviously untrue.
Yeah, so just go down to your definition of significant amount of money to be made.
Well, that information was provided by the woman explaining it to everybody in the hospital and
Yeah,
making
so
it
what
very
she's
clear.
okay.
She
So
makes, hold on, let me
so
finish. Makes a lot of money, right?
mhm.
Okay, and then I actually gave the statistics at the end about what the overall profit margin is for transition from
You do
male to
not give
female, female to
statistics.
male.
Nope.
Yes, I
You
do.
don't give. Nope. Nope.
That
You
is
do
at
not.
the end of it. It's in the text.
So if you put the amount of dollars you put at the end, you actually don't say you just show it. You actually don't say anything like what it means. So you just put female to male, and then you put it like a 120 something thousand, and you put male to female 140 something thousand. But you didn't say if these were surgeries, if this was all transforming care. So it's
No, I
and
didn't.
what's worse
However,
is you
she
put
went into
cost,
it.
not profit. So cost is not a profit.
That's not, I didn't say cost. I said profit.
It says cost. You can pull up the clip. It says cost on it. It says
Yeah,
average
cost to the
cost.
person paying it. Yes, not it doesn't mean it's a
Yeah, so
profit
that's
thing.
not profit being made,
It
right?
is because that's how much it costs the person when they get it. If you want to, I mean, I guess you could try to suggest that that's not the
Okay, hold
profit,
on.
but whatever.
If I
But
no. So
again,
if a smartphone costs $600, doesn't mean that the person that $600 worth of profit was made.
okay, I can look up the source on that for where I went with it, but in the
Great,
long
but do you
run,
understand like what I'm getting at? That like cost is not profit. Do you
okay,
agree with that?
um, cost to the person paying it. I understand the point that you're trying to make, yes, but I still stand by the point that that proves that money is in fact being made. A lot of money, according to the expert who was giving that presentation to her hospital. She even went on to say that there are some clinics that's literally all they do because they make so much money at it.
Some of our BUMC financial folks in October of 2016, starting a couple of years ago, put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in, and this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery, and it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s. So that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. And then the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Huge money makers. Huge money makers.
That's what she said. If you don't feel that's sufficient proof that money is being made, okay, I don't agree with you at all, and I actually don't really feel much need to evaluate it beyond that.
Jon Stewart's point was not that no money is being made. It's that there's not a
now
lot
you're
of
being an
money
absolutist. Okay, but he did say that there was no significant money being made. The other person, who didn't understand that she was going to be quoted later, said that a lot of money is in fact being made.
So this is going to depend on what you mean by a lot of money being made. But what they're trying to say is that basically, like as like a sector of the economy, it is not a large sector of the economy. And what they're trying to get at is that what people are trying to imply is that trans-affirming care is the way it is because there's a lot of money to be made. But if that were the case, you would expect the sector to be really large, and it is not, because there are just, one, not a lot of trans people, and two, there's actually not a lot of money to be had in trans people, like affirming care in general.
So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll provide a link to it in the description. U.S. sex reassignment surgery market size, share, and trends analysis. Report by gender transition male to female and female to male, and segment forecast 2022 to 2030. The U.S. sex reassignment surgery market size was valued at USD 1.9 billion in 2021 and is expected to expand at a compound growth annual rate of 11.23% from 2022 to 2030. The rising incidences of gender dysphoria and the increasing number of people opting for gender confirmation surgeries are expected to boost the growth during the forecast period, according to a study conducted by Cedars-Sinai in June 2020.
So one of the things I like try to point out was that every time a hospital like wants to offer new services, they have to do mass investments in them. Okay, so if you're talking about like building like new rooms and facilities, you're talking about millions of dollars of investment. So while it might be like really neat, that, like for the hospital, if they're getting, I don't know, they're charging the patient like $60,000+ or whatever, that doesn't offset the fact that they spent millions of dollars potentially building new rooms, hiring new staff,
so the woman
creating new guidelines, right?
That
so
it makes a lot of money for the hospital.
Yeah, so her goal is to convince the hospitals to offer these services, so that basically it's to try and convince them to make money. So it's attempting to convince them to make a long-term investment.
Right, because
so they're not offering the care just cause. Like
right, because they make a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. Huge money makers. Huge money makers. Huge money makers.
Like hold on. Everything has to be profitable at the end of the day, right? Like you can't offer services and then have them like just lose money. Right. So obviously that wouldn't be Jon Stewart's point. He knows we live in a capitalist society, okay? He knows everything's gonna have to make money. So when he's saying that these are not making large amounts of money, he's not saying what you're saying.
No, he is. He said that not a significant amount of money was being made, or the endocrinologist did. And as I pointed out, no, point of fact, hospitals are making a lot of money. That's what the woman said.
So I mean, you're talking about like the U.S. economy is like trillions of dollars, right? Like how much like money do you really think is?
We're not talking about the entire economy.
But that's their point. That's what he's getting at. It's not a large sector of the economy.
It's like I don't understand. Like so, being made for the hospital.
What? I don't understand. Like, why are you reading this point like so hyper literally?
Because literally, they're making a lot of money. That's why they're doing it. That's what.
Not what he means.
Okay, if you're going to continue to raise your voice and conduct yourself that way, this isn't going to go much further because I don't want to deal with it. Calm down. Like, I'm not raising my voice to you.
Okay. As you keep insisting that he means something that he very clearly doesn't mean.
Okay, and I've already stated that you're suggesting that he doesn't mean it, and it's obvious that that's what he meant.
And so then what it shifts to is, this is a profit center for you. That this is a cynical exploitation by big pharma to make money off of confused children.
That too is crazy, because the areas of medicine that are brought in for gender-affirming care are heavily mental health, pediatrics, primary care, endocrinology. If you look up where the money centers are in medicine, those are not they.
So apparently 1.9 billion is not a lot of money being made. And he made some comment like they have to invest millions to be able to do it, but whatever. They could invest millions in anything, but they were still doing it because it was profitable. He's like pretending that there's no profit being made, and that's just absurd. Plastic surgery has been known to be one of the most profitable parts of medicine as it is. That's why plastic surgeons are absurdly wealthy. And just about all of the surgery part is literally just plastic surgery. And that's not even talking about the pharmacology part of this, where they have to be on hormones and other corrective medicines for their whole lives. The entire point was to suggest that this is just a money grift for you guys. The endocrinologist says, and that's crazy too, because, this doesn't actually make very much money. And the woman who, did not know she was being filmed, but was convincing the hospital, now we should get into this because it makes the hospital a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. Huge money makers.
And some hospitals literally fund themselves entirely off of this stuff. So in other words, that contradicts exactly what the endocrinologist just said.
Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties. And that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing.
It does not contradict what the endocrinologist said, because what the endocrinologist is saying, again, like the fifth time, I don't know how else to reiterate this to you. The point or the claim is that this is not a large sector of the economy, there's not actually a whole lot of money to be made here.
Okay, I
like
don't
collectively.
I don't
collectively there is not.
I don't agree with you. That's
do you
why
think
she's
collectively
giving this presentation in the first place?
So do you think, again, because you don't, first off, you don't actually give like context for why this lady's giving this presentation. My guess is she's giving the presentation.
I explained who she was, and I'd already done a video about it earlier. That's what I said when I described it.
Well, then you didn't link that particular video. What you said was that this was a clip from Matt Walsh. or for Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman?
No, actually, I didn't say that. I said that Matt Walsh recently
I
uncovered this
watched
video.
the video. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't say it was in What is a Woman. That's not true. Now, John just leaves the matter of whether or not profits have anything to do with this as settled at that point. The problem is, those of you who follow my channel have probably already seen this clip, but Matt Walsh found people who went undercover and uncovered the fact that actually a lot of money is being made. So what follows was a video taken without their knowledge where they're explaining to the hospital why they have to get into gender-affirming care because it makes a lot of money.
Okay, so you just referenced Matt Walsh's "What is a Woman" video,
Yes,
but it wasn't actually in the video.
Not what he said. No, I said Matt Walsh released those clips on Twitter because that's where they came from. Those videos, the video is not in What is a Woman. He did not have that information yet.
Sure. So there's a settled point. This has been settled at that point. Problem is, those of you who follow my channel already seen this clip, but Matt Walsh's people found people who went undercover and uncovered the fact that it's actually making a lot of money. Okay, so sorry,
In other words,
in that particular
not in
section.
What is a Woman, because those videos were brought out considerably after What is a Woman was released.
Okay, this still doesn't actually tell me where the woman is from.
That information is literally in the red captions, is right before she starts talking.
What red caption?
Starting in January 1st.
What are you referencing? There are no red captions
Before
she
starts talking, it says who she is, where she is, and what the date was.
It tells you that she's like talking at Nashville, Tennessee. This doesn't tell me the context in which she's actually doing this.
Record a quick video to make an announcement about
the
radio. Don't mind the background noise for whatever reason.
I'm sorry, you gave me a name. So hypothetically, I guess I could have Googled this name, but this doesn't actually give me a lot of information to go off.
Okay, so if you want that kind of information, you can ask for it. You know, people ask for elaboration sometimes. That's fine. But to imply that I didn't give any context, like it was something dishonest on my part, is bullshit.
No, what I'm saying is you're not giving the full context of the video.
I already explained that, and
like putting her name is what. Sorry, when I say like you're not really explaining who she is, I don't hyper literally mean the name, right? Like not really giving the context of the speech is also really not saying who she is, right? Like if I like pull up a random clip of someone and I put their name at the front of it, that doesn't really tell you anything about them.
Matter of whether or not profits have.
Other than they could potentially been like left out of context, right?
The problem is, those of you who follow my channel have probably already seen this clip, but Matt Walsh found people who went undercover and uncovered the fact that actually a lot of money is being made. So what follows was a video taken without their knowledge where they're explaining to the hospital why they have to get into gender-affirming care. So what follows is a video taken without their knowledge about why they have to get into gender-affirming care. Because it makes a lot of money. Then I give her name, where she was, and what the date was.
Starting in January 1st of 2017.
So to suggest that there was no context is not only dishonest, I think it's kind of nitpicky.
Okay, if I use the word no, then sure, I meant little context.
No, you said no context. That's exactly what you said.
I know. So I'm saying that if I said no, then I meant little. It's my bad for not being more specific. Or sorry, I guess being too specific in this scenario. There's still insufficient context. That is the gist of what I was like trying to get at.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree. And the people who are watching are already familiar with it.
Yeah, so you referencing your audience is not actually like demonstrating your point here at all.
Okay, I don't agree with you whatsoever, but the video is very clear in that she's giving a presentation which exposes the fact that a lot of money is being made.
So, again, these services can be profitable, but for like, I don't know how else to like reiterate. Like, do you understand like how expensive it is for like hospitals to offer like new services?
We've kind of already been over this, and again, she made it clear we need to get into this because it makes a lot of money.
So, are you aware of how expensive it is to like for
Why
hospitals
is
to
that
like offer new
relevant? Because
services?
she's suggesting that it will make a lot of money for the hospital. That implies
Right. So
profit.
it's so it's her job to convince hospitals to offer this care. So she's going to fixate on the like the positives, right? Which is like at the end it'll be really profitable, assuming you do this for like a large enough or like a long period of time, right?
And
So showing this clip does like what she's doing or like what hospitals are doing is like not like particularly like disingenuous, right? Which is like an underlying like implication of showing the clip.
it's not disingenuous.
I I mean, I'm saying it's disingenuous. I guess you could insist that it's not.
No, because I would be right. She openly states that they make a lot of money for the hospital.
So, do you believe that you can show something like out of context in order to imply something that isn't actually like said in a video, or like it wasn't the actual like main point of
So
like the
is there
person's
some
words?
additional context that could be added that would somehow mean the opposite of what she says during her presentation?
So again, it's not the opposite, right? The point is that she's there to sell like the idea, right? She's there to sell like trans affirming care to the hospitals and get them to do something,
So is she
right?
lying?
Well, she's not telling the whole truth.
So she's lying. You believe that
I
this
mean,
person who's an active doctor involved with trans stuff is lying?
so in the same way that like a car salesman or like someone trying to sell you a house might like overemphasize the positives of the thing you're buying and then like not talk about any of the negatives. Yes, in that sense, she is quote unquote lying.
Okay. Well, I don't really feel that you have any evidence for that. It sounds to me like you're kind of inventing context where there isn't any. I have no
Well,
reason to believe that she's lying. And it doesn't surprise me at all because the medical industry in general makes a shitload of money, not just on that. Everything's overpriced. So,
okay,
again, it
right.
doesn't
So
make any difference to me, but
hold on. Okay. What I'm saying is that her pitch sounds a lot like a salesman pitch, right? So my evidence for that is like every time I've ever had to deal with a salesman, right? They've only ever talked to me about the positives of things that I'm buying, right? So I said in that sense she's quote unquote lying, unless there's a larger like portion of this clip that you didn't provide, that Matt Walsh didn't provide, right? Where she goes over all the negatives, but that seems unlikely because again, that's not typically what salesmen do, right? So I'm saying that like my narrative would make more sense here than your narrative.
I don't agree. I honestly believe that yes, they are making a lot of money, exactly as she said, and you're providing with some what ifs that make you feel that you don't feel that that's proof. If that's not satisfactory for you, it was just one thing of many things that I've discussed on this topic. I'm satisfied with the way it is. If you feel that that's not enough proof for you, okay, that's fine. Watch a different video.
Um, uh, okay. You know what? I'm gonna move off this point. Because honestly, um, I don't know how else to like reiterate this point. So if I can just I'm just gonna ask you like point blank. Um, why do you never refer to Matt Beggs as him in your video?
What do I refer to them as?
You use they, them, their the entire video. And in the source video that you used for this video, which you link at the end of the video, which I also watched, you also use they, them, their. Is there a particular reason you never use he, him, his?
I've referred to Mack Beggs as a he before. I don't like go around counting the number of pronouns that I've used, but that's because I'm not in the middle of a woke inquisition or witch hunt trying to determine that somebody's transphobic like you are.
So yeah, but like you, okay? Do you work like off a transcript when you make these videos?
No,
Okay, so you coincidentally perfectly used non-binary pronouns for them the entire time?
Again, I didn't keep track of every single pronoun. I've just told you that I have at times referred to Mack Beggs as a him in conversation about him. The conversation comes up frequently because I'm involved with wrestling, specifically girls wrestling. I've, been at a tournament that Mack Beggs was at, and that's my clarification. If that's not enough pronouns for you, frankly, I don't care. The people who are trans in my life who know me know better.
Okay. So, like I said, I was more curious than anything else, I guess. If that's your defense of it, sure, I guess. It seems awfully coincidental, but sure, my bad.
Well, okay,
Um,
imply whatever you want. If you come away
I,
from this thinking I'm a transphobe, I don't care that you feel
okay,
that way.
all right, that's fine. Sorry, I can understand your non-concern there.
That's
So,
because the people who are trans in my life know better.
yeah, well, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not you. I don't know you. So, I'll take your
Right.
word for
Well,
it.
then maybe it might be
Oh,
best that you not try to make certain assumptions or imply certain things about me by saying they're awfully coincidental.
um, yeah. So, typically when I like talk about trans people and they tell me like what their preferred like pronoun is, I don't think I would find myself like so I'll be honest, I didn't actually like sit down and count them. I just
So
scrolled
then
through the
how do you
transcript
know? Because
because
you're
I just scrolled through
claiming.
the transcript and just noticed that like you never referred to him as him.
Okay. Well, I don't
I
know
mean,
what to
I could
tell you
sit down and
there.
count it, but like,
I can tell you that honestly, I have used the word him. In fact, I've been teased for using the word him on wrestling forums specifically, and I said, no, I'm going to respect the guy's pronouns. I honestly don't feel I have anything to prove to you in that regard. You're going to assume that I'm transphobic regardless, just because I'm willing to talk about this. But there was a trans person in my wedding. I had a trans roommate for over a year who watched my children. I make it very clear in the beginning of my video about are they coming for your kids that I have no reason to believe that trans people or LGBTQ people are more likely to be pedophiles. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for the trans people that I know. If you're not satisfied with my pronoun usage, at the end of the day, it's not going to be something that I want to spend a whole lot of time on here. Just like the people of color in my life know what my views are on race, the trans people in my life do as well.
yeah. So I'm not like I said, I just was wondering like what your explanation would have been for it, more so than anything else. So that's fine. Um, so you do say like a lot of other things about like Mack Beggs that just honestly didn't make sense to me. So you implied that they purposely went out of their way to, or sorry, that they didn't actually want to fight boys, which I think is a weird claim for you to make. Because in the video, that like when you say it, you're showing like the first page of their wrestling track record, um, where it notes that there are two divisions that they went to where they like fought as a boy. So and then you kind of like make a claim that like, well, on like a national level, when they can go there, they went out of their way to, I guess, find nationals events that wouldn't allow them to compete as a girl. Sorry, I wouldn't allow them to compete as a boy.
No, you've totally got
Um,
this wrong. Should I explain it to you from the beginning so that you'll get it better because you've completely messed this up?
I mean, I was just going off, but I mean, I'm
No,
literally
you
describing like how it shows up in the
you
video and like the
definitely
order
were
in which it shows
not.
up.
You definitely were not, because if that's your understanding of it, then you don't get it at all. Mack Beggs
Uh
lives
huh.
in the state or lived in the state of Texas. The state of
Hmm.
Texas
Sure.
forbids girls from wrestling with boys in their school-oriented tournaments. Mack Beggs got on testosterone and continued to compete in the girls' division, and then would continue to show up at tournaments where those rules did not apply and wrestle in the girls' division anyway, meaning that they
Yeah.
could have just chosen to only wrestle
Mhm.
boys, which is the claim that they made, was that that was
Yeah.
the only reason they would ever wrestle girls is because they were being made to do so.
Yeah.
And that
So
is
that's just not
obviously
true.
false.
No, it is. No, it's just not true.
Which part is
So
not true?
yeah, so he didn't go to nationals and then register as a girl when he could have registered as a guy. Because the organization that he fought under for nationals was USA Wrestling, which did not change their policy until 2017. So when he fought in 2015 and 2016 in June, based on what their policy should have been at the time, he would not have met it.
He always either entered into boys and girls or just girls. That is what is clearly stated on his track wrestling.
Because he, okay, hold on. So he only, I could only find like 2 tournaments that he registered as a boy, right?
All over the country that he could enter that don't
in
care
2015, 16, and 17?
Always, yes. Do you need me to find tournaments that are boy tournaments that have girls in them to prove this to you?
I mean, that would have been nice if you'd shown it in the video, yeah.
But that's because it's already understood. Girls have been entering tournaments co-ed literally for like decades because there weren't any girls divisions for the longest period of time. I want to be clear, this is not something I just have a passing knowledge in. I've been involved in it now for the last 20 years. Girls have always been allowed to enter boys division tournaments depending on individual states like Texas made their own laws. But USA Wrestling would not turn a girl away, and in fact still does not turn girls away right now from entering the boys division if they so choose. It's been that way. And it's not just USA. New Way Wrestling lets girls wrestle in the boys division. AAU Wrestling lets girls wrestle in the boys division. You know, it's always been that way. And the majority, with the exception of Texas, in fact, Texas, I believe, is the only one that doesn't allow girls to compete with boys. Okay? All of them do. Okay, so you make some like backhanded comment about maybe I should have included that information in my video as if I was trying to omit it or did something wrong. The reality is that that's been common knowledge in wrestling for many years.
Yeah, so hold on. You're the one that's supposedly like or I should say supposedly. You're like you would consider yourself like an independent journalist, would you not?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're like dealing with an audience that probably isn't like into wrestling like you are, you should probably be explaining these things to them, shouldn't you? Like, why would you assume they would have this knowledge?
Why would you assume that I was lying about it? I made it very clear.
Because you don't provide the evidence for it.
Because my point had nothing to do with that. My point was,
yes,
and it was
it
accurate, that Mack Beggs showed up at tournaments where they could have only chosen to join the boys division.
Yeah,
and
you didn't demonstrate
chose
that.
to wrestle girls. Yes,
yeah,
they did.
You didn't demonstrate that. No, you didn't.
Now
Where
you're
did you
just
demonstrate
flagrantly lying about what's in the video.
Well, because hold on, because the only thing that you show in the video is you show the first page of their track record. You don't show the second. You don't show the third. You don't dive into any of them. You don't show anything about like what the policies of all the leagues you just mentioned are. You just asserted it. Where is the proof in the video?
I'll go look for it for you.
Okay.
I would also admit to you that Mack Beggs actually commented on my video and admitted to going to both divisions. They claimed that their reason was because they were trying to be great.
So, like I said, so the video that I found, right, or that you referenced, you said it was in the title card. So I clicked on the video at the end of the title card. This is the video I got. Is this the video you're referencing, or are you referencing a different video? Yeah, so that wasn't the video you cited in the video that I watched.
So let me watch this one again.
The problem is that Mack Beggs had a habit, according to their track wrestling account, of showing up at events where they absolutely could have entered the men's division or went out of their way to travel outside the state of Texas to attend wrestling events where they could have, basically that were only a girls division. So basically the notion that they would have preferred to compete with men but they were not allowed doesn't really make a lot of sense if they're going to go out of their way to travel out of the state of Texas to girls events instead of traveling out of state to events to compete with boys, which you're absolutely allowed to do.
There's some new information that I got from watching this 30 for 30 episode, and I think it's interesting because it also kind of sheds, some very powerful light on Mack's own position on his girls' state championships that he won while under the effects of testosterone. I'll get to that in a moment, but
First, I want to clarify a major point that is continually misconstrued, which is that people bring up that Mack was forced to wrestle boys and that they would have, I'm sorry, girls, and would have preferred to wrestle boys. And in the state of Texas, boys are not allowed to wrestle girls. That is true. However, Mack had a tendency to show up at tournaments outside of Texas where they absolutely could have wrestled boys and chose not to. Mack also would wrestle in the girls' division in certain tournaments and the boys' tournament at the same time. So again, if they were given if it was all about just not, that they would only prefer to wrestle boys, there were plenty of opportunities where Mack could have done that and didn't. They still ended up entering the girls' division. And Mack traveled to tournaments that only had girls' divisions outside of the state of Texas. So, needless to say, a lot of people's understanding of this situation is just wrong. And I'm going to provide some information about that by taking a look at his track wrestling account. For those of you who don't know anything about wrestling, track wrestling is like a free program that a lot of the tournament directors use to record people's results. So this is Mack Beggs' track wrestling profile, coming from Euless, Texas. And even here in this one page that I already have highlighted, you can see that Mack attended the men's divisions and the women's divisions at the Red Hawk Rumble. There were also other tournaments that he participated in, that are girls' tournaments that are outside of the state of Texas. So that would include the junior women's freestyle duels, the national duels, cadet women's freestyle. Mack didn't have to go to any of this stuff. Same thing with Body Bar. That's a girls' tournament. So now, mind you, Body Bar is actually held in Texas, so that's relevant. But when you're attending USA events for a long time, they were letting Mack do both. I actually saw Mack Beggs in person when my daughter was at the Folk Style Nationals in Oklahoma. And they had showed up there shortly after the USA Wrestling had finally made the ruling that Mack would have to wrestle in the divisions that they identified with. So this is an important point, and I don't want to belabor it too much other than to suggest that if this was really only about Mack being forced to wrestle girls, then their track wrestling wouldn't have these events on it. And there's plenty of other examples of this. I'll provide a link to it, but you can look it up yourself. But there are plenty of other examples, like, right here, Freestyle State Championship, junior men, and also in the girls division at the same time.
Okay, so you went over Mack Beggs multiple times, and you have a video hyper specifically on Mack Beggs, which I was supposed to apparently find also. Okay. I suppose that's my bad.
Especially if you're going to make sweeping, ridiculous accusations like how many times I've used a person's given pronouns, you might want to actually know all the times I've talked about them. Yeah.
Does not deliver on its stated underpinned so that Beggs was a biological female.
You're the one referencing these videos, right? So I would assume that you would stand by them. And you're referencing it as if they're supposed to make sense of the points that you're making, and I'm saying that they weren't doing that.
Right, you're wrong.
Okay.
So I just went back and listened to it, and nothing that I said was incorrect in that video. I didn't get as detailed into it as I did in the other one, where I literally break down the tournaments, which ones they are. But everything I said there was accurate. Mack Beggs would leave the state of Texas to attend girls-only events. That's totally voluntary on their part. If Mack Beggs wanted to compete only with boys, it's extremely easy to do that outside of the state of Texas. And the events that I point out in the video that I just shared with you, go into a little more detail, but I didn't make any false statements in this video at all about Mack Beggs.
So, Delta State looks like a grand total of 3 times. So this is not something they constantly did or went out of their way to do constantly, right? I clicked on all the other events. They all happen in Texas.
No, they didn't all happen in Texas. The Red Hawk, some of them did not. And in fact,
I didn't see
one instance that I didn't.
None of them did.
Actually,
I'm saying there are 3 of them don't.
They recreated a track wrestling account named Mackenzie Beggs specifically to show up at another tournament. I don't have that one offhand, but that was one of the things that they did. But
yeah,
again,
so
if they were at a tournament like the Red Hawk Rumble, which is on the video I just showed you, Okay, and then that is a circumstance where if Mack wanted to, they could have just not entered the girls division. That was completely within their rights. They chose to go ahead and wrestle girls anyway. And again, Mack Beggs defends the action, saying that I was trying to be a great wrestler or something. That's literally what Mack Beggs says.
You said you said you commented on this video, right? So how do you know it was him? Is it the
Because
Mac
they said
Karam
they
Beggs account?
Let me look.
And it's funny because the comment actually says that at the time, girls in USA Wrestling could only do Greco-Roman.
Which isn't true.
So, do you like know what all the rules were like in 2015, 16, and 17? Like, and you know when they were changed or like not changed? They've like been consistently across the board like the same for I don't know like the last decade or so.
The girl who mentored my daughter in wrestling, who had been wrestling considerably longer than her, and she started in 2014, had been entering the boys divisions her entire career.
In Texas or like in other national events?
Okay,
Like,
well, I already
where?
made this clear to you that Texas is the place that has those rules, and it's almost unique in that case. USA Wrestling just didn't start to have those rules. In fact, I remember specifically the event because Max showed up and was told they couldn't compete because I was physically there.
So yeah, this is very strange because I found multiple articles saying that USA Wrestling had just changed their policy, and under the new policy, Matt Beggs could finally
And
compete
that
as a
rule
boy.
was specifically to prevent Mack Beggs from going to women's folk style nationals and competing. That was the whole point behind it, was they needed to make it one way or the other. So later on, after all of this, I still had to deal with this in Discord, at least in the chat. And I had to deal with this idiot trying to force me or demand that I provide them with evidence that girls have been allowed to wrestle boys. Because apparently this was their big gotcha. Like they thought they were going to say, well, no, girls haven't been allowed to wrestle boys until 2017. And I literally just, like, they wanted me to prove that girls have been wrestling boys, even though girls have been wrestling boys pretty much forever, because there haven't been enough girls to make a division. So because of the fact that it's not easy to find an article on, say, when were girls allowed to wrestle boys, because it basically goes back to Title IX, I think, in like 1972, I just went to one veteran female wrestler that I knew of, which was Sarah McMahon, and she started wrestling when she was 14, like back in the 90s. So that's well before 2017. And it was just like I had to go through all this bullshit just to prove to him something that happens all over the country all the time. Texas is the anomaly. It's just unbelievable stupidity.
So you're saying that she could have, that the rules would have allowed her, but she just chose not to?
Did you just misgender her?
Okay. I see this has been a super productive conversation.
You just misgendered her, didn't you? It's a he. Remember?
I don't know. I mean, you're the one that's calling him her.
No. You said her. You just misgendered Mack Beggs.
Yeah. No. The conversation's over. It's fine. All right. You have a good one, sir. Okay. Apparently my bads.
Well, folks, that's it. Moral of the story, don't show up in V's Discord looking for trouble unless you're actually prepared to not look like a fucking idiot. Have a good night.